So podcast interviews are hot. Right now, a lot of people are trying to get on podcast shows and they're hitting a wall. They reach out to a show host and they never hear back, or they hear back with, no, we're not interested, or they get whatever kind of excuse. And I'm here to share with you some strategies that will get you closer to getting on shows. Hi, this is Kathleen Gage with Power Up for Profits and Plant-Based Eating podcast shows. I have two podcast shows and I get on a lot of shows and I work with my clients helping them to get on a lot of shows. I have a membership program that teaches people from the beginning to the end how to get a lot of bookings. Several of my clients are hitting complete home runs because they're following the strategy. I recently got this message and I wanted to share this message because this is a great example of what to do in order to get on a show. I'm actually going to have this person on my show. And I can't tell you the number of people who approach me, especially for my plant-based eating show, where the number one criteria is that you have to be 100% plant-based vegan, no exception. That's for that particular show. For my other show, Power Up for Profits, that's not the criteria. But for plant-based eating for health, number one criteria. And when somebody approaches me and they're not plant-based, they're not going to be on the show. I don't care how popular they are. I don't care how many books they sold. I don't care how big their name is. They're not going to be on the show because it's branded to those people who are really interested in learning from people who are 100% plant-based vegan. So here's the message, and I'm going to break it down. My name is X. I'm not going to give the real person's name. My name is X, and I've been running a plant-based food blog called X for quite a few years now. I got excited when I saw your podcast here on Podmatch and hope that we'll be able to connect. Initially, I thought about pitching you on topics related to plant-based kids or dealing with a husband who wasn't plant-based, but I see that you've covered those fairly recently on your podcast. Do you have any interest in discussing the challenges of living plant-based in a foreign country? I'm a U.S. citizen who has been living in a different country for a couple of years. Or perhaps diving into my method for creative recipe development to make sure the plant-based meals remain exciting for the family. Let me know. I'd love to connect at your convenience as I'm in the U.S. right now visiting family. Now, I want to start out with the person immediately identified that they're plant-based by saying, my name is X and I've been running a plant-based food blog. So if they're running a plant-based food blog, there's a pretty good chance that they have a real interest in the topic. And they put for quite a few years. So that means they've been doing this for a while. This isn't just something that they started last week and they're getting on the trend wagon. So that's the first part. They immediately identified the connection to my podcast show. I got excited when I saw your podcast and hope that we'll be able to connect. So they are already showing enthusiasm and they're really interested in connecting. Initially, I thought about pitching you on topics related to plant-based kids or dealing with a husband who wasn't plant-based. Now, that means that they've listened to some episodes or they have at least watched and looked at the titles of the show. It's amazing how many people never even listen to an episode or even a portion of an episode. You don't have to listen to the whole thing. Even 5 or 10 minutes of listening to a show can give you a lot of information. And looking at the titles of the show. So those are really key in what they did. They identified themselves as plant-based, so there's a connection. So let's say that you have a show about antique cars, and the person identifies, well, I've been collecting antique cars for the last 20 years, something like that. There's an immediate connection. They introduce themselves. They say they're excited. They've listened to some of your episodes. They notice the episodes that you've had. Then they make a recommendation based on the fact that they know that I've already had some of the topics they were going to propose. They propose some other topics that definitely are of interest. And let me know. I'd love to connect at your convenience. Right there, real short message. I mean, here it's in big print and it's pretty short. And I reached out to the person right away and I said, thank you so much for your message. Yes, let's definitely talk. And so they got through the first level of resistance that you're going to find from a host. So if you're looking for shows You need to do your homework. You need to make sure that you're a fit for the show. Don't throw a whole bunch of mud up on the wall and hope something will stick. It's amazing how often people will target a show and the show has nothing to do with their expertise, or they target a show for authors, let's say. I work with quite a few authors, and let's say that they are a nonfiction spiritual author. Well, you want to find shows that have nonfiction spiritual authors on the show. You don't want to target shows that only talk to memoir writers or to novelists. That's not going to be a fit. Again, this is Kathleen Gage with Power Up for Profits and Plant-Based Eating for Health show. I encourage you, go out, look for the right shows, put your pitch together, study what you're doing. You'll get a lot further if you spend a little bit of time up front doing your research rather than sending a message out to 10 different hosts hoping that something will stick. If you'd like more information, all you need to do is go to powerupforprofits.com. That's powerupforprofits.com. I've got a lot of information on how to get on shows. I've got some free resources. Right now, I'm encouraging people to sign up for a complimentary call on how to get your first podcast interview. On the main page of my website, you'll see a little green box, and on that box you just click and it'll take you over to my calendar. And I'm only interested in talking to those people who have never been on a show before that really want some information on how to jumpstart what you're doing. I will talk to people, let me make this clear, I will talk to people who have been on shows, and if you're looking to get booked on shows, we also offer that service. So I encourage you, go out, look for opportunities. Podcast interviews are hands down one of the best ways to do a book launch, an event launch, a company launch. It's a great way to get your message out to market, but you have to do it strategically. Have a great day.